So why do you think they pulled out instead of explaining themselves and fighting for their position?
Well, definitely there should have been an opportunity to engage more at the table, and I think that's where a lot of us thought was still occurring. But I signed on to the original letter and said, if you had the opportunity to help people of color, low-income communities, get jobs, higher wages, then that could have been a game changer. Why did they pull out? I thought there was a lot of loud voices that kept pushing back rather than saying, let's be responsible in this approach. Now, when we said what could be further, yes, union protections, yes, stepping up for women, yes, stepping up for people of color, yes, making sure that immigrants have protections as well, but walking away and being pushed away will lead to communities of color in Queens and the Bronx, overwhelmingly who wanted to see this happen, being rejected and feeling like they can't have jobs they could have had because of Amazon.
And Assemblyman Kim, even in the heart of Silicon Valley, San Jose, Google is trying to, they're saying they want to bring 20,000 jobs there. There were protests at a city council meeting over what that would do to the housing situation there. They're still toughing that out. What's the lesson from the way Amazon engaged here and the fact that they walked away at this stage?
There is something fundamentally wrong in our country when politicians and mayors and governors are competing and fighting with each other to give away taxpayers' money. That's what happened for the last 2 years. There's absolutely no statistical correlation between jobs, economic growth, and corporate giveaways. A number of economists have come out and testified to that fact. But we continue to double down, and executives continue to justify the corporate giveaways. We're giving away about $8 to $10 billion a year of this corporate welfare that has no return. Upstate New York, Tesla, one job is costing us about almost $1 million right now. Now, so instead of putting that money towards those corporate welfare and corporate incentives, we should reinvest every single dollar for the next 10 years for affordable housing, our crumbling subways, our broken schools that has a long-term sustainable growth for our local economies.
I think we need to make it clear because there's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of misreporting out there right now. The $3 billion in tax breaks largely that Amazon was going to receive here were reductions in future taxes that the company would have paid if it moved here.
Exactly.
Right, but the point is that if we tie, the fact that we're tying our money, our taxpayers' money, to the growth and performance of a mega monopoly that's designed fundamentally to extort and exploit our communities and take value out of our local economies, instead of recirculating that wealth, we can do better.
We're talking about 25,000 high-paying
give that
jobs
tax breaks to local small businesses, mom and pops, who are struggling every single day. If they get those breaks, they will actually have tangible jobs on local economies right now today.
The reality,
Amazon is designed not to perform.
Here's the problem. Ron is literally not focusing on facts. So at the end of the day, you have to have incentives to help create jobs. I ran the minority women business portfolio for President Obama at the White House. The notion that you won't have incentives that will have opportunities that will lead to economic impact on the ground does not make any sense whatsoever. So at the end of the day, communities of color wanted to see this happen. Queens and the Bronx in particular. The concern right now is rhetoric as opposed to reality. Now, could you have made the deal better? Yes, and that's the concern we're all saying. Come to the table to make the deal better, but the jobs that are going to be lost have negative impact on everybody.
Am I hearing you? Do you think this is not done? Do you think there's any chance of a way to come together still?
Absolutely, and that's responsible leadership, because when we think about in the conversations even reported a few hours ago, RWDSU union was having meetings with Amazon yesterday to try to figure out what could be done here. So this is the conversation that I think we cannot stop on. The job opportunities, the economic impact, the changes for the local community, we cannot ignore on that.
Bottom line, Amazon is an abusive company. Google's giving us back $1 billion investment, and Amazon is adamant on extorting $3 billion of tax credits from the state of New York. That's the difference between an Amazon versus the Googles and Facebooks in the world that are being good corporate citizens to the state of New York.
It is a head scratcher. Google says that they're going to add 7,000 workers over a decade. SAP's in Hudson Yards. They're not making the same kinds of demand. So I guess there is a question. Why wouldn't Amazon just pay the taxes?
Can you have adjustments on this? Absolutely. But we think about what could have been an opportunity with CUNY, for the students that are going to CUNY schools that could have had the transformational opportunities. For affordable housing, we should make sure the 1,500 units still happen. And so the consideration of completely walking away from a deal that could create 25,000 jobs for people of color and women is absurd. Now, we have to be responsible in how we move forward on this. We talk about Google, perfect example. We talk about other industries that have come before. But the notion of just walking away and saying to these communities that for decades has suffered poverty is unacceptable.
Amazon could not commit to hiring locally. They were at a city council hearing. They were on the spot. They refused to commit to hiring locally.
That is just not true. The memorandum of understanding said in good faith when it came to local hiring, so that is factually not true. Now, what was said is, how do you move forward in making sure local hiring, people of color, women, and also immigrant protections and union protections happen? We cannot allow rhetoric as opposed to
I
reality.
guess, do you put any
Look at
blame on
Foxconn,
Amazon
Wisconsin.
for not coming in and saying the right things? The way companies sometimes are used to.
Absolutely.
When they
And
come into a new town.
No question. And so we can have the conversation of moving forward and saying, let's figure out how we get to the end goal that wins for everybody. But the questions, there's no question. There doesn't need to be better improvements in the relationships. Absolutely. But the notion of completely walking away on both sides is unacceptable.
Every data has proven. Look at Foxconn, Wisconsin. Their internal auditors came out last week and said, we're not going to see a return on our investment for 35 years.
That's a different deal.
Very different deal.
Structure
And Ron is also ignoring the fact that he keeps bashing on Amazon, but his campaign is actually purchasing from Amazon. So, like, again, this is rhetoric versus reality right now.
Here's what I want to know, bottom line. Are you concerned that this essentially now for New York City and the state of New York makes it that much more of a headwind for other businesses to want to come in and do business here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's intrinsic value in the city of New York. We've added 70,000 jobs in the month of December in 2018 alone. We are competitive when it comes to tech jobs. We are almost at equal with finance in terms of tech jobs. There is a decentralized economy of startup companies that are coming in here, doing a number of positive things. Those are the type of startups and companies that we supported, but then we're making it difficult for them to enter the market, where we're giving out the kingdom for the big corporations like Amazon. This is a clear example of the difference between a corporate-driven politician versus someone who's actually listening and taking care of the people on the ground.
And so we talk about listening. The overwhelming majority of New Yorkers wanted the Amazon deal. So again, Ron is focused on rhetoric rather than reality. To your question, as someone who actually has helped start businesses and access to capital and access to contracting, no, I do not believe it will make it difficult for more to come in, but what that means we have to have community engagement on the front end. The governor and the mayor should have brought us all in on the front end. There should have been broader conversation around the incentives. We would not be in this scenario right now.